Welcome back to the Hannahcast YouTube channel, and today we're going to be continuing October Oscar predictions. This is the last one of the month before we start the November predictions, but today we're going to be tackling the below-the-line categories, the text, animated feature, best international feature, all sorts of cool stuff. Speaking of cool stuff, consider becoming a member. We've actually just got our third member on the channel. Can we get to 8? Because once we get to 8, we can add even more emojis and stuff. I've been pumping out some content, especially one about the Gold Derby polls that have opened up, and I've reacted to those, and I've also talked about Dune not being eligible for Best Original Score, which we'll talk about a little bit here in Best Original Score once we talk about those predictions. But yeah, consider becoming a member. It means a lot. Anyways, let's get on to the predictions, shall we? Alright, we're going to start off with cinematography, as always, and my top 5 has not changed. Alright, my top 5 is still The Brutalist I have winning, Dune Part 2, Maria, A Complete Unknown, and The Girl with the Needle. Now, most recently, we actually did get a new trailer for Maria, and this just affirmed to me what I've always thought, and that is Maria is just locked in for a cinematography nomination. I mean, yes, Edward Lockman is doing the cinematography, which obviously that's mainly the reason why I'm predicting this, but you look at the trailer. It is gorgeous. There's a scene in the trailer where, like, Angelina Jolie is just kind of walking down, I think it's Paris, and it cuts a few times, but it looks like it's just one big shot, and it's lit so amazingly well. So, like, I don't know how this doesn't get nominated. Like, despite the fact that, yes, this is not getting as good reviews as, you know, something like Spencer or Jackie. And I don't think that really matters because, again, the cinematographer's branch will just kind of do their own thing. And again, it's like people still generally like this movie, but keep your eyes on Maria. Don't take it out of your predictions because it looks amazing. And A Complete Unknown, people are kind of wondering, wait, what? Oh yeah, I forgot to also mention, we did get a trailer for The Brutalist. The cinematography is very unique. Now, I'm pretty sure we haven't seen the full scale of the cinematography yet, but like this Statue of Liberty shot is in the trailer, and it's, again, I'm kind of fascinated to see if this can actually win cinematography. I'm gonna go with it for now, especially if I have Brady Corbett winning director, but I don't know, from at least, like, between the trailer for The Brutalist and Dune Part 2, I do kind of like Dune Part 2 cinematography a little bit more. So we'll have to see, but again, I don't really think Dune Part 2 is gonna win a bunch of Oscars. It might win at most 3, and hell, it might even lose even less than that. So we'll have to, or more than that, I should say. Complete Unknown. People are gonna go, why do you have this in? This is literally from the same cinematographer as the Trial of the Chicago 7. Alright, the Trial of the Chicago 7 got no, I even checked, no cinematography nominations anywhere else except ASC, which shows they went out of their way to nominate Trial. Like, it's not like it was, like, obviously a sweeper, which meant, oh yeah, we're gonna put this in. They just, like, that's not the case with with Trial. Like, they just went out of their way to nominate that movie because they like the dude. And you can't say it was lack of competition because they had Tenet, they had Da 5 Bloods. Like, there were plenty of options, and yet they just wanted to go for Trial. And then it got the Oscar nomination. And I think the same thing might happen with A Complete Unknown. All right, and especially since the cinematography is more showy than Trial, because you got the stage lights, the spotlights, and all that. Like, it makes everything look kind of nice. I think we might be underestimating A Complete Unknown in cinematography. And then my big swing, we have The Girl with the Needle. All right, the images that I've seen of this movie look really, really good. It's in black and white. Everything's kind of positioned really well. Like, the blocking is very good. I think, and also this is in the running for Best International Feature. Although, granted, you know, even if it wasn't, I guess that didn't stop El Conde, since Chile didn't not predict it. They did not submit that movie for Best International Feature. But still, the fact that this is in the running is a bit of a better sign. And again, it's just, yeah, this just, like, I feel like we might be underestimating this. Also, you can't predict this on Gold Derby. What the hell, Gold Derby? Like, what are you doing? Like, this is why Awards Expert clears. But yeah, If there's any other film that I think could surprise, Grand Tour, which is also in the running for international feature. Again, you look at the trailer, the cinematography looks really, really good. And I want to know if this can happen. Like, can Grand Tour actually happen for cinematography? I think when it comes to stuff like Girl with the Needle and Grand Tour, they ride or die with ASC. All right, I think they definitely need ASC to nominate them. Granted, I guess you could also say the same thing for a lot of these other movies, but like, they'll usually go 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. They won 5 out of 5. This year, or technically last year, or something like that. You know, the Oppenheimer year. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, like I want to know what could happen. The Nickel Boys, maybe. Again, I've only seen the trailer, and it does look interesting in cinematography, but I'm wondering if it's the narrative of the cinematography that's better than the cinematography itself. Because sometimes the ASC will just go for what's the more artistic shot, like the most well shot film in terms of like the artistry. Whereas with Nickel Boys, maybe they just go, all right, this is a cool narrative with what you're doing, the cinematography, but in terms of the actual image itself, it's nothing spectacular. Like they will do that sometimes. We'll have to see. Nosferatu. I don't want to have to predict this movie. Okay, well, I want to predict this movie, and it's tempting to predict it because the trailers look absolutely amazing, but it's still a horror movie. It's still a big hurdle, and it's not in black and white, although you could also make the argument that this is from the same cinematographer of The Lighthouse, and The Lighthouse got an Oscar nomination for cinematography, and this also looks very good. So I don't think it's impossible, but I want this to happen, but I don't know if it actually will. Joker Folie à Deux. I'm not, like, I don't think this is happening anymore. No. Because even though the cinematography looks amazing from the trailers, again, I haven't been able to see the movie. The cinematography looks really good, but man, people hate this movie. And I don't know how often, like, a movie will get nominated for best cinematography that has, like, reviews as bad as Joker 2 has. This is, like, it's really low. Conclave, I do think this will get nominated at Critics' Choice and BAFTA, but it just does not scream cinematographer's branch to me. It just doesn't. Because like the trailer, like it looks decently shot, but it's not really showy. And the cinematographer's branch likes the more showy stuff. This just kind of looks like it's just kind of doing the bare minimum in terms of cinematography. And it's not really all that interesting to look at least from the trailers. So I do think this will get a couple of precursors, but I don't think Conclave is gonna ultimately get the Oscar. Will it get ASC? That's interesting, because again, you want to go 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 with ASC. Those are your best bets. But what would be exchangeable at ASC if they do go 4 out of 5? Like, what would they put in? Because if Conclave gets ASC as well as BAFTA and Critics' Choice, that's going to be kind of hard to argue. But at the same time, that is also what Top Gun Maverick had, so you can make that argument. Blitz is another film that I think is going to do pretty well with precursors. But again, I'm looking at the trailer and it's like, it doesn't look like a cinematographer's branch kind of thing. It just looks very kind of basic with the cinematography. It's not like trying to do all that much. Gladiator 2, I'm not exactly sure about that. Well, for one, like, okay, I guess it doesn't really matter if you're not in Best Picture, because I got 2 in here that are not in Best Picture. But also, it's like from a cinematography standpoint, from the trailers, it doesn't look like it's like trying to be all that ambitious with its cinematography. It just looks like it's like, all right, here's the world, here's kind of how everything's looking. I don't think it's gonna get ASC. It might get Critics' Choice though. Who knows? Emilia Perez, I have not seen the movie. From the trailers, like, you know, that one spotlight scene with Zoe Saldana looks really cool, but again, from the rest of the trailer, it doesn't look all that amazing from a cinematography standpoint. This is where I feel like the precursors are going to be very, like, I think what we're looking at in terms of precursors, the nominations are going to be wildly different. They're going to be very wildly different, because we know that the Critics' Choice Awards just like to nominate their Best Picture stuff, so they're probably not going to nominate Maria. Hell, they might only nominate The Brutalist and Dune Part 2. Like, what would Critics' Choice nominate? They probably do The Brutalist, they probably do Dune Part 2, maybe they do Nickel Boys, maybe they do Conclave and Blitz and Emilia Perez. But yeah, it is kind of hard to figure out. Furiosa, I would not mind that getting a cinematography nomination, because the cinematography in that movie is like really, really cool, but I don't think that's happening. I don't think it's happening. Megalopolis, I mean, again, I haven't seen the movie, but from the trailers and clips I've seen, it doesn't look badly shot. I mean, I've heard the editing is bad, but the cinematography itself looks pretty interesting. So, again, we'll have to see how that goes. And then The Substance. I would not mind The Substance getting nominated, maybe. Again, I do want to fully see Maria in some of these other films, but I'm kind of putting The Substance in here in case it's like a big thing. But I think even if it were a big thing, I don't think cinematography would be one of those. I don't think it would get in for cinematography, but that's just me. We'll have to see, however. Actually, yeah, considering how big the competition is, I would be kind of surprised if if The Substance really took off in cinematography. Yeah, actually, I would be kind of surprised, yeah. Film editing, all right? I have Dune Part 2 winning editing, although The Brutalist could definitely win it. Already we're kind of starting to see Dune Part 2 is weaker than the first, so much so to where even Gold Derby is not predicting Denis Villeneuve for director. So how much does that say about editing? But at the same time, I don't really know what else would win at the moment. Like, the Brutalist is 3.5 hours long, but like, you know, being long in of itself doesn't really give you an Oscar for editing. But again, Dune Part 2 is very showy in its editing. So that's and also I do have it winning sound. And I know the past 2 years has not been very kind to that stat, but let's be fair here. You know, with Everything Everywhere versus Top Gun Maverick, there was no way in hell Everything Everywhere was going to get nominated for best sound. Not with that top 5, including the Batman. And with editing, I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once was like the editing showcase of the year. Like, the editing was absolutely insane in that movie. Something that Top Gun couldn't really match. So it wasn't really a close race. And with The Zone of Interest versus Oppenheimer in Best Sound, well, I think really the narrative of the sound in The Zone of Interest got to people. I went, oh, we want that to win for Best Sound. But so yeah. That's where I feel like there is a bit of a disconnect. Like, I don't really see anything in Best Sound or Best Film Editing that's like really like that has the kind of narrative that Zone of Interest had. And in terms of editing, nothing is like nothing that I've heard of is as insanely edited as Everything Everywhere All at Once. Whereas with Dune Part 2, it seems to still strike that balance out pretty well. So I think when it comes to close races, or I don't know if it's really close races, but basically, if there's no other like big alternative that you can find, I think it's safe to say Dune Part 2 is winning editing and sound for right now. Yeah. Emilia Perez, it's a musical. Musicals in Best Picture tend to do well in editing, I think. Okay, West Side Story did not get nominated for editing, so that's kind of interesting. Elvis is more of a musical biopic, but that was still nominated for editing. What else is there? Oh yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody won film editing, but La La Land was nominated for film editing. What else? Wait. Oh, Les Miserables was not nominated for editing. Okay, so maybe it's a bit of a hit or miss when it comes to musicals, but as of right now, I don't really see any reason to doubt Emilia Perez right now in editing. A Conclave, I mean, it's like a political thriller, so I probably would get editing. And A Complete Unknown, I think it's going to surprise in a few texts, although, plus, I don't really know what else could get in, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, nothing else seems to be, like, because I feel like Seed of the Sacred Fig, that makes sense for editing, but at the same time, especially if I have it in Best Picture, but I don't think it's going to get the Eddie Award nomination. Like, even The Zone of Interest didn't get that. Or All Quiet in the Western Front. Okay, it did get the Eddie nomination, but it ultimately didn't get the Oscar nomination. See, I feel like you kind of have to be like a top 5, like, Best Picture contender in order to get into editing. Maybe not always top 5. Not always top 5. Or at the very least, if you're like an international film, you want to be in top 5 generally, although there was also Roma. Roma didn't get film editing. So it is really tough to say. Like, I just don't think See the Sacred Fig is going to be big, and I think it'll be big enough to get into Best Picture and a few other categories, but I don't know if it's big enough to get editing, even though it would make sense as that. Juror number 2, I think I did drop this from film editing because I have no idea what's happening with this movie now. Because Warner Brothers is not even really releasing this movie. They're only releasing it in like 50 theaters and have no plans to expand on that. It's like, why? Clint Eastwood literally made, like, sure, did Richard Jewell make money? No. But the other, like, what is it? The Mule made money, and that was like during a pandemic. Obviously American Sniper made money, and Sully made money. It's like, what is Warner Brothers trying to do with Juror number 2? They are actively trying to kill this movie. So that doesn't make sense. But on the slight chance that this becomes a big audience hit and people are demanding that people go see it, or people demanding that Warner Brothers release it wider, maybe Juror number 2 could still get it. If it's in Best Picture, we'll have to see. If it's in Best Picture, then I would probably, but then I guess I still have it in Best Picture, but it's also at number 10. This is so confusing. It's so damn confusing. But, like, it's because it also just makes sense as a film editing nominee, doesn't it? Like, it's a big courtroom drama, like a lot of mystery, a lot of intrigue, and like if it's in Best Picture, it makes sense to put it in editing. But I just don't know what to do with it right now. Sing Sing, if it's really strong in Best Picture, which I do think it's going to win, but if it's strong enough in nominations and that gets film editing, then that could, like, that would be a big surprise. And I think that would also show people, hey, Sing Sing is looking to be like a big contender. So there is that. Anora, I don't know. I think Anora might end up being like Roma, where like just because you have the director as the editor doesn't mean it's automatically going to get in. No, granted, I think Nomadland got in, but also it was a pandemic year. Like, would it have gotten editing if it weren't the case? And also, like, Nomadland was like the undeniable Best Picture, Best Director frontrunner. Whereas Anora, I don't think you can guarantee that Anora is winning Best Picture. I think it's even harder to make a case for Sean Baker being the winner for Best Director. So I don't know about that. The Room Next Door, I do have it in Best Picture, which is why I have it higher up in film editing. But again, this might be one of the more bottom contenders, at the very least. Like, I do think it'll get director and maybe adapted screenplay, but I don't know if it's like big enough to get editing. So there's that. Gladiator 2, I mean, you could make an argument that's like Star Wars The Force Awakens or I, Tonya or Tick Tick Boom, where it is just so strong as like it's just so strong in text that it could get into film editing. I don't know, because that doesn't happen a lot. And also with Tick Tick Boom and I, Tonya, I think they won like Best Comedy Musical editing at the Eddie Awards. Whereas here it's a drama, and that's harder to win. So I'm not too sure about that. But again, if it's in Best Picture, then I would definitely consider it for editing. The Substance also makes sense for film editing, but again, I need to see how strong this film is overall. I need to see how strong it is overall for me to predict it in more text. Blitz, I have that in. No, well, at least at number 13. But again, if it's in Best Picture, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I don't know. Nickel Boys, Challengers will definitely get the comedy Eddie nomination. That could definitely happen because it is a very showy edited film. But again, I don't know if it's gonna actually happen at the end of the day. The Apprentice, Saturday Night. I don't know. People aren't really even seeing those movies. Furiosa, again, makes sense as an editing contender, but I think that there might be just too... I don't know if it can overcome not being a Best Picture nominee. So there's that. Production design. All right. This is where I really want to talk about some stuff and a realization I just had. But for right now, it's still generally the top 5 that I had before. I still have The Brutalist winning. The production design in The Brutalist looks interesting. We'll have to see how it goes. And again, I'm still thinking the narrative might take over because I'm not really so sure what else could win. Because Wicked's sets look very big and very good, but I don't know if it's like big enough to like. I think like I want to see if people actually really like this movie. If people really like this movie, then maybe I could consider it further and edit in production design. That it could win, but right now I'm just like, is this actually going to happen? Like, is it actually going to beat like 2 Best Picture nominees? We'll have to see about that. Dune, obviously, I think that's just a given. Gladiator 2, I know some people are predicting Gladiator 2 for the win, and I'm not sure if I could say it'll win. Like, the first one, the first one did also, also did, like, Coliseum stuff, so I'm not exactly sure if this one will win. And plus, there is also the sequel thing, which is, there's only ever been 2 sequels that one Best Production Design, even though I guess I will be making a case for one sequel here in a bit, but we'll get to that in here in a bit. But yeah, Megalopolis, the sets still look amazing. I think if it were to get any kind of tech, it would be production design. Like, and also, one thing I will say about Megalopolis, like, it's a little bit more divisive than I thought. And what I mean by that is, like, people don't seem to outright, like, there are some people who do outright hate the movie, but unlike something like Joker, where, like, everyone hates that movie, Megalopolis is a little bit more divisive. Like, it does have its fans. And also, I think Joker 2 being way worse reviewed and way bigger of a box office flop may have taken a lot of the wind out of Megalopolis's sales in terms of what a disaster could be in Hollywood. So there is that. And again, like, the production design in Megalopolis still looks very, very good, very flashy. All right, here's where I might contradict myself a bit with a proposition. All right, I have Beetlejuice at number 6. And here's why. And because I kind of realized this throughout the past, like, this month, and something came to mind. You want to know how many Tim Burton films have been nominated for Best Production Design? 4. Batman, what was it? Sleepy Hollow, Sweeney Todd, Alice in Wonderland. You want to know how many of those won production design? All 4 of them. You want to know how many of them won off of precursors? 1. Only Sleepy Hollow won any precursors. All right? It won the Art Directors Guild and the BAFTA, and cool. Batman, granted, you can make an argument that with the BAFTA, the BAFTAs came after the Oscars, but they still nominated they still nominated Batman for a ton of BAFTAs, including, like, visual effects, makeup, supporting actor for Jack Nicholson. What in the world? They loved Batman more than the Oscars did, and yet Batman still did not win the BAFTA, and yet at the Oscars, production design was Batman's only nomination, and it still won. And again, you can make an argument that there was no Art Directors Guild Awards nominees that year, but still, the fact that the BAFTAs liked Batman more than the Oscars, and yet the Oscars still gave it the win and BAFTA didn't, that's kind of big. And then when you have Sweeney Todd and Alice in Wonderland, like, what was winning everywhere with the Sweeney Todd win? Yeah. Atonement won the BAFTA, and There Will Be Blood won the Art Directors Guild Award. All right? And yet, Sweeney Todd beat both of them at the Oscars. Despite, Sweeney Todd wasn't even nominated at the BAFTAs for production design, and it still won the Oscar. And then you have Alice in Wonderland, and that's where we also have Critics' Choice Awards when they started to have the tech awards to be given out. Inception swept the precursors. It won Critics' Choice, Art Directors Guild, BAFTA, and then what won the Oscars? Alice in Wonderland. Whoa. a movie that people did not even like, because remember, Alice in Wonderland was kind of a very divisive film, and it still is a very divisive film. And, people just did not really like Alice in Wonderland all that much. And Inception was like a top 5 for Best Picture, and even won the original screenplay Writers Guild Award, meaning it was probably number 2 to win original screenplay over the King's Speech. If the King's Speech didn't win, it probably would have been Inception. And yet, Oscar voters still went for Alice in Wonderland. Again, a movie they didn't even like, they chose over Inception. Now, if that were today, that would probably be a little bit different. But here's the problem. I can't really use that argument of, oh, well, they will just choose the movie that they actually like this time around. But because people actually like Beetlejuice. Like, Beetlejuice was considered a surprise. Like, wow, I didn't expect Beetlejuice to actually be, a good movie. It's actually pretty good, or some people would even say really good. It was a big box office hit, making way more money than the first one did. And so, if my thing is, if Beetlejuice gets nominated for if Beetlejuice gets nominated for production design, it's going to win. If it somehow gets into this top 5, I have to predict it for the win, because this Tim Burton stat is so strong. Again, now granted, some people will say, well, now it's going up against 2 potential, at least 2 guaranteed Best Picture nominees, and 2 films that are maybe in the conversation with Wicked and Gladiator. But even then, let's just say Dune and Brutalist are the only Best Picture nominees in there. What do you do then? I still have to predict Beetlejuice, because, how did Alice in Wonderland beat Inception? How did Sweeney Todd beat both Atonement and There Will Be Blood? What else did they have? American Gangster and Golden Compass. All right, those were. Then again, American Gangster maybe would have gotten into Best Picture in a top 10, but still, Atonement and There Will Be Blood both got Best Picture nominations, and yet Sweeney Todd beat both of them. This is going to be really big. Again, if Beetlejuice gets nominated, I have to predict it to win. Now, what would its precursor package look like? What would I need to see in order to be convinced that Beetlejuice is getting a production design nomination? And also, people, I think, well, first, before I do that, I guess people will probably also say, well, the first Beetlejuice didn't get nominated. Yes, the first Beetlejuice did not get nominated, but the sequel has way more sets. It just has more sets overall. You go around more of the dead world, and even in the real world, the production design is very good to look at. So it kind of has those 2 things going for it. Okay, but back to what I was saying with what precursors would I need to see in order to predict Beetlejuice for a nomination. The guaranteed nomination is Art Directors Guild for Fantasy Film. That's going to happen. All right, so we have that. But if Beetlejuice gets either a Critics' Choice nomination or a BAFTA nomination to go along with it, then I will probably have to predict it for the nomination and then preemptively predict it for the win. If it gets one of those precursor nominations, which is tough, because the Oscars sometimes will nominate, they will sometimes go out of Best Picture to nominate the crazier stuff. But right now, again, it's just one of those things. If, again, Art Directors Guild for Fantasy, that's guaranteed. If it gets Critics' Choice or BAFTA to go along with it, or even both, I will have to predict it for the nomination and predict it for the win. But even if it just gets one or the other, with the BAFTA and Critics' Choice to go, the BAFTA or the Critics' Choice to go along with the ADG nom, I will have to put it in for the win. But or regardless, if it gets nominated, it's winning. I don't want to doubt this stat. And again, if this was a case where it had the reviews of Alice in Wonderland, I would probably change my tune. Because yeah, Babylon didn't win, and yet, because people just hated that movie. But people just don't hate Beetlejuice. They just don't, people actually quite like this movie quite a bit. So it just inherently has a stronger chance than something like Alice in Wonderland these days. So that's kind of my thing right now. It's I haven't pulled the trigger on the nomination yet, because I want to, which granted, I guess you could probably also go say, well, you're putting Megalopolis in above Beetlejuice. Again, I just don't want, because if I don't want to think too hard about this, but if Beetlejuice, if I put Beetlejuice in the top 5, I have to put it in at number 1. I don't want to do that right now. I don't want to jump that gun right now. But if I start seeing some evidence, like Beetlejuice is starting to become a thing, oh wow, are we in for like, even Matt Neglia told me like this would probably, like, if Beetlejuice gets nominated for production design, this will be like the most debated thing in terms of predictions. Like, what are you going to do? Because the Tim Burton stat is very unbroken, but could it be broken now? And again, like he was saying, maybe it would face its biggest challenge now. But again, it's just like, it's going against another sequel in production design, which is already proving to be not as strong as the first Dune. And so you kind of have The Brutalist, which some people might even try to say, well, that's not as showy in production design, but I don't know. They still had The Shape of Water win, and that wasn't the most production design. And you have Wicked, but again, like that also kind of depends on if people like it or not. So it does make things really challenging, man. God, I'm telling you, if like Beetlejuice might win, like no, not might. I think it will win if it's nominated. But oh God, what else could probably happen? Blitz. Blitz could get nominated. Like I've seen the sets and stuff. Like that's not impossible. And honestly, maybe it would be a safer number 5. But I do want to go with something a little bit outside the box. Although maybe outside the box would just be Beetlejuice. So what am I kidding? Furiosa, I would not mind that in production design. Like, the movie looks amazing, but I don't know. This might be a case where there's just too much competition. Nosferatu, oh my God. I've been hearing, like, a lot of stuff about... I've been reading up on a lot of stuff about the production design of Nosferatu. God, this sounds like it deserves a nomination, but I don't think it's going to end up doing that. Joker Folie à Deux. I mean, again, because of the competition and because everyone hates this movie, I don't think that's happening. The Substance, it is very good at production design, but it's also, like, you could also make an argument it's too contemporary to be nominated. We'll have to see. And Conclave is definitely going to get some precursors. Like, it's going to get Critics' Choice and it might get BAFTA, but... And I know an article came out with like, oh, they rebuilt the Sistine Chapel because they weren't allowed to film in the actual thing. So that's a big achievement. But it's also like, well, yeah, but you're also recreating a very contemporary thing. It's like we already know what the Sistine Chapel looks like, and it's just kind of recreating that. It's hard to describe, but it's also I feel like Conclave is just going to be too contemporary to be contending in that many tech categories. But we'll have to see. All right. Costume design. This is where I feel like Wicked wins something. Now, it could win in production design, maybe. But I think no matter, like, okay, well, unless people hate Wicked, I think it's going to win costume design. Like, the costumes look very big, flashy. It is literally like, like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, or Cruella. I think this could probably win costume design, even if it's not in Best Picture. As long as people like this movie quite a bit, like, I think it'll be fine. Dune, because honestly, nothing else really stands out as much of a, big contender in costumes. I mean, Dune Part 2, but again, the first one didn't even win that, so I don't know. Gladiator 2, again, the costumes look really nice in that, but again, is it going to be as showy as Wicked? The Brutalist, I feel like, is just going to be like one of those like coattail nominations, sort of like The Irishman or Oppenheimer. The Brutalist is just going to rack up a bunch of nominations, and I think costume designers is going to be one of those. And then you have Maria, which the costumes in that movie look amazing. All right, I feel like this is at least going to, like, it's going to get at least costume design, I feel. And plus it is Netflix campaigning, so I feel like that's going to do a lot better than something like Neon back in 2021. We'll have to see though. All right. Beetlejuice. It is Colleen Atwood doing the production design, and she has surprised before. I mean, God, she won costume design for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them without any kind of precursor wins, and also considering the fact that Harry Potter didn't win a single Oscar within its franchise, and yet Fantastic Beasts managed to win costume design. So if Colleen Atwood's very strong, but and I do think the costumes are a lot flashier than something like, The Little Mermaid that came out last year, because she was the costume designer of The Little Mermaid, but I think Beetlejuice is clearly the bigger, like, costume design achievement. But is it going to get nominated? I'm not sure right now. I don't want to jump that gun. But also, it's also like, there's not a lot of big competition. Like, Joker, maybe, but also people hate that movie, so I don't know. Blitz, it doesn't look that showy in terms of costumes. I mean, like, the outfits that Saoirse Ronan wears are pretty good, but that's probably about it. Furiosa, again, I would not mind this, but again, I don't know if that's going to happen. Nosferatu, Megalopolis, I'm not really sure about that right now, so I'm not going to go for that. I think honestly, this 5 sounds very good to me. But again, I'm watching out for Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice just might be a big thing. All right, makeup and hairstyling. All right, I will go for it. I'll predict the substance for makeup and hairstyling right now. Having seen the movie, it is an ungodly achievement in makeup. But also, can this actually win? Because, again, there still is Emilia Perez, and that also has because from what I've heard, there is a character that has a, makeup transformation in the film, and the prosthetics were reportedly so good that many people in the audience thought that was just a completely different actor. So, that could definitely win, although I do want to see that makeup for myself. But the substance is also just the most makeup. And also, a few other things that have caught my attention is that the box office is very good for a movie film. Like, very, very good. And also, the audience scores on the substance are fantastic. Better than Us, better than Hereditary. Like, audiences actually really dig the substance. And, hell, it's getting so popular right now to where even Moist Critical reviewed it. Like, Moist Critical. He's not even like a movie critic. And yet he talked about the substance in a video to his 16 million subscribers. I feel like the substance might and keep in mind, he also this is a guy who didn't even review RRR to my knowledge. And the fact that he went out of his way to review the substance shows that this might be in the pop culture zeitgeist a little bit more than we think. And I think if people see the substance, they're going to see the makeup and go, wow, that is awesome. Like, this is amazing work. And it might, not best, but I don't even want to say bare minimum as well, because maybe this doesn't even happen. But this could at least be like a consolation prize, sort of like how RRR won Best Original Song, and that was its only nomination because it was just the most song. Whereas with the substance, it's just the most makeup. So there is that. I feel like people are really doubting the makeup in Furiosa. Like, practically every character in that movie has prosthetics on, pretty much. And so, I think Furiosa is going to be fine. Dune Part 2... admittedly, I'm wondering if I should keep this in the top 5, because it's the most we kind of see in terms of makeup that's different from the first is Austin Butler's character. But a lot of the other characters have makeup that we have kind of seen before. So I'm wondering if maybe this gets squeezed out, because there's actually a lot of competition here. A Different Man, maybe. Like I've seen some of the images, and the makeup does look pretty good, and it's so that's interesting. But God, but there's also 6 and 7. Honestly, it's between this 7 that really makes me go, what do I do? Because I did say if Beetlejuice gets nominated for production design, then it's gonna win, and there is a chance it could get nominated for costume design. But what do we do about makeup? What do we do about makeup? Like, the first Beetlejuice actually did win makeup, so why am I not predicting it? Because I don't know. I did see Beetlejuice. The makeup is very good, but also it is very similar. I don't know if similar, but it's there's so much competition over here. There's so much competition. And it's I don't know what I would take out. People are going to say, well, take out Furiosa. It's Furiosa is not going to miss out on that many texts. All right. Is it going to win 6 Oscars again? No, it's not. But I've always said this. This is a sequel to a film that won 6 Oscars, was nominated for Best Picture and Best Director. And sure, this one did flop, but people actually like this movie. Actually, it still has a 90 on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, whereas with Joker, again, I feel like Joker just kind of took all the flops, like all the flop flack from Furiosa, because at least, again, people at least liked Furiosa. Joker, no one likes that movie. Like, not only did it lose more money, I think it lost more money, but people hated it. People hate Joker. So I feel like when people are going to be talking about, oh, Warner Brothers' biggest disaster of the year, they're not going to talk about Furiosa. They're going to talk about Joker, because at least Joker was a movie that they didn't like. Furiosa, people still, even if they're saying that it's not as good as the first, they still really like it. The general consensus is that still, it's like, yeah, it's a very good movie. So I think at bare minimum, it gets like 3 nominations. Like, I just don't, especially in makeup, like seeing the movie and seeing all these characters with makeup, how is it not going to get nominated? Like, I think we need to chill on the idea that Furiosa is just going to completely goose egg at the Oscars. Like, let's chill a bit. It was nah, no, like, it's not that big of a disaster. Again, not compared to Joker. So again, Beetlejuice not being in there, that's tough for me. Like, I don't know what to do about that. Because it could very well just get nominated, all right? And Sasquatch Sunset. I did see Sasquatch Sunset. The makeup is pretty impressive. But again, we'll have to see how... God, there's a fly near me. We'll have to see how it goes. Because the makeup is genuinely impressive, but there's just so much competition. It's like, is Sasquatch Sunset gonna ultimately get it at the end of the day? It could. Again, I feel like it just is between this top 7. Because, like, I did put Gladiator 2 in this list, but I think it's just like a shortlist thing. It'll be like Napoleon. It'll be like Ferrari, where it's like, oh wait, that got shortlisted for makeup, but ultimately just does not get in. A Complete Unknown. It'll be like, I think it'll be like Bohemian Rhapsody and whatnot, where it's like, oh, there's some makeup, but it's mostly hairstyling. But ultimately, I don't think it gets the nomination. The Apprentice, I still have not seen The Apprentice, but I have heard that they do make him at the end look like, they do make Sebastian Stan at the end look like Donald Trump as we know him today. At least from what the images I've seen of Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump, it seems like some of them look a little bit older, and he looks really good. So maybe that gets shortlisted. We'll have to see. Your Monster. This is like a romance movie that has like a dude that looks like a hairy man with prosthetics. Again, that could also make the shortlist, but we'll have to see. Joker 2, I just don't think it's going to be enough, especially with how bad the movie has been received. Although, granted, they did nominate Coming to America, but at the same time, that was also like the most makeup of the year. So I don't think Joker is going to be the most makeup. Longlegs, what they did with Nicolas Cage is very impressive, but it's probably not going to get them a nomination, probably. Or a shortlist mention, maybe. We'll have to see. Nosferatu, I know a lot of people are predicting Nosferatu, but it's like, look, we're already begging the Oscars to nominate one horror movie for best makeup, which is The Substance. We're already trying to get that going. I don't think they're going to be gracious enough to do another horror movie. I think they're going to, like, it's either The Substance or bust when it comes to horror movies this year at makeup. Hitman, again, I could see, like, Critics' Choice going for it. I don't think it's enough. Saturday Night, Megalopolis, same thing. I was like, I don't know if that's going to happen. Wicked, I know a lot of people are trying to predict Wicked, but guys, the most makeup that we're seeing in the movie is that Cynthia Erivo is green. That's kind of it. Like, I don't think that's going to be enough to get a nomination. And Maria, yeah, Critics' Choice is probably going to nominate Maria for makeup, but again, I don't see it. I just don't see it at all. Visual effects. All right. Same top 5 I've had. Dune is winning. Apes, Gladiator, Furiosa. And yes, I'm putting in Furiosa. Because the effects I just don't think are that bad in Furiosa. They're actually very good. And I was wrong about judging them when I saw the trailer. Like, having seen the movie, the effects are very, very well done. It's just the movie has a much cleaner aesthetic, which could warp your interpretation of the visual effects. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not like the effects are badly done. Like, they're still very well done. It's just that's just what the overall film looks like. It's just way more dynamic with its camera movements and the aesthetic. Instead of being very rugged and rusty, a lot of things are cleaner and shinier. But that's more of a production design thing than visual effects. So yeah, I think people need to chill on Furiosa on visual effects. I think it's like a safe. I'll say it. It's a safe top 4. This is a safe top 4 to go with. Yeah, and there might be an argument to put Gladiator in above Apes, but that depends on if it's in Best Picture. If it's in Best Picture, then yes, I will probably have to put Gladiator above Apes. But right now, I'll still keep Apes at number 2 because I do think there is definitely a chance that Apes will win the Visual Effects Society Award for visual effects in a photoreal feature. We'll have to see. And Rebel Moon Part 2. Like, there's honestly, once again, I feel like it's between this top. Look for that 5th slot. It's between Rebel Moon, Deadpool, and Twisters. All right, let me make my case for each of them. All right, Rebel Moon, I currently have in because yes, the first one did not get nominated, but also the first one did not deserve to be nominated. The effects in Rebel Moon Part 1 were very hit or miss. They were not very good. And especially around the end, like it was the effects were really, really rough. I should say, but Part 2, I was kind of surprised. The effects were way better this time around, especially around the third act. This third act, like I said before in my previous below the line predictions video, it is literally like Star Wars meets All Quiet on the Western Front. That kind of visual effects style. It's really astonishing what they were able to pull off. So I think, and yeah, people hate this movie, but also people hated The Lone Ranger. That doesn't really matter. Also, and people hated the Lion King remake. People are like, well, why would you nominate that for visual effects? It's like, well, like they generally don't really care about how good your movie is. And so, yeah. But you could also make an argument for Deadpool and Wolverine, because it's Marvel. Marvel doesn't really miss for visual effects. I mean, there's only been 2 years where they've missed. That was 2011, where instead of Captain America, the First Avenger, they went with Real Steel. But also Real Steel was like completely like unexpected in every way. Then you also had 2015, where Avengers Age of Ultron and Ant-Man got snubbed for the visual effects Oscar. But also, I would not say that was a detriment to the effects of those two movies. I think it was just more so that year was like the best year we've ever had for visual effects competition. Like, in most other years, yeah, Ant-Man and Avengers Age of Ultron would definitely be getting Oscar nominations for visual effects. But the fact that it was just so competitive that year, I think that's why they just were left out. It had nothing to do with if the effects were bad. It's just too much competition. I don't know if it's too much competition here. Although this is looking like it's looking much more like a normal visual effects year, if I'm going to be honest. I think I might be very happy with the lineup. Depending, maybe. So there's that. But at the same time, with Deadpool and Wolverine, you could also make the argument, well, no Deadpool movie has ever even gotten shortlisted for visual effects, which, granted, that didn't stop Spider-Man No Way Home, but at the same time, Spider-Man No Way Home was clearly a gigantic film with, like, so many different kinds of visual effects, and easily the most impressive visual effects out of the entire, out of that Spider-Man trilogy. Deadpool and Wolverine, the effects are not bad in the movie, but how do I say it? It's like, it's not as big as you would think, like a big multiverse Deadpool movie could be. Like, it's when you look at in Spider-Man No Way Home, there's like the mirror dimension. I think the mirror dimension is why Spider-Man No Way Home got nominated for visual effects, to be honest, because that scene was actually pretty astonishing. There's nothing really like that in Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, there is a lot of CG, but it seems like it's not as highlighted as much as other Marvel movies. Like, they still do try to keep it feeling kind of grounded and stuff. I mean, even like the big fights, there's like this big fight scene with a bunch of characters, and it's like, it's still kind of treated very grounded in reality. Which, again, that's not a bad thing, but in terms of visual effects, it's like does that get in? And there is also Cassandra Nova's character where like she puts her fingers in people's heads, and that's really cool. I haven't seen that, but it's like, I haven't seen really anything like that before. But is that going to be enough? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I don't know. Maybe it just gets in for being Marvel, like with Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Even though Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness should have gotten that nomination. Ugh. God, I'm still so upset over that. Still. And I finally saw Twisters. And I must concede, I was wrong about, again, there's another instance where I was wrong about my interpretation of the visual effects, because Twisters, like, I was going into it thinking, okay, we've already seen storm effects before, like tornadoes and stuff, like, what is this going to bring to the table? This movie is, like, operating on another level in terms of, like, simulations. Oh my god, it is, like, there's a lot going on, and there's even this one scene where, like, they pull out and you see, like, clouds kind of forming in over themselves, like, that's, like, really good stuff. It's, like, it's almost flawless, really, how it's done. So, like, oh, like, if this actually, honestly, if Twisters got nominated, I would not be really upset. I would not really be upset, because it's a very impressive achievement. And I could see some precursors going for it. You know, I could see, like, Critics' Choice will probably go for it. Will BAFTA? I don't know. Maybe. And then there's the Visual Effects Society, which makes me wonder, like, are they going to go with 6 nominees this year or 5? Because this is looking to be much stronger of a year than, like, 2022 or 2023. Like, this is looking a little bit more like 2021, where there was, like, a lot of competition. So we'll have to see. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking. I think it ultimately is between this 7. Or at the very least, like, the top 4, I will say, are locks. And yes, Furiosa's a lock. I don't care what anybody says. It's going to get nominated. And then that 5th slot, I think, is between Rebel Moon, Deadpool, and Twisters. I think Rebel Moon's going to be a little, like, because there's a little bit more kind of stuff going on, I think that might get it a nomination. Again, people do hate it, but clearly the visual effects branch doesn't really care if they hate your movie. But we'll have to, and again, the first one didn't get nominated, but it is definite, like, the effects are definitely better than this, than the first one. And people are also going to go, well, did it have an awards qualifying release? I would say, I think it did. I think it actually did premiere in theaters for, like, 1 week, and which in some like, it had a limited theatrical release for 1 week, I think. And so I think that's generally what you need in order to be Oscar eligible. So yeah, right now I'll go with Rebel Moon, but maybe it's Deadpool, maybe it's Twisters. We'll have to see. Mufasa, I'm still not convinced. Again, the effects just look worse than the first one. It's like, the first one looked really fascinating. Like, it was a complete animated movie that looked photoreal. Like, it looked like they were actually shooting in Africa. That was amazing. Here, it's just way more exaggerated and animated, and sure, that might make audiences happier, but I don't think it's going to impress the visual effects branch that much, because they're going to see it as, like, well, it's not it's technology-wise, it's kind of going back from it's kind of going backwards from what the first film did. So, like, again, it's more expressionistic, and people are going to go, well, you know, audiences are going to like it more than the first, so why doesn't the visual effects branch do that? Well, again, the visual effects branch doesn't really care how much the audience likes something, because they're just going to do their own thing. Like, the visual effect, like popular movies that people wanted to be nominated for visual effects and yet ultimately did not. Oppenheimer didn't even make it in the top 20 in the shortlist. Poor Things did not get nominated. Everything Ever All at Once did not get into the top 10 shortlist. What was it? Pacific Rim did not get nominated. Alita Battle Angel did not get nominated. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh yeah, I guess, like, Black Panther, just like general audiences wanted Black Panther to be nominated. That didn't happen. We're trying to think of what else. Oh yeah, people wanted The Shape of Water and Dunkirk to get nominated for visual effects, and yet that didn't happen. Or Thor Ragnarok. People wanted Thor Ragnarok to get nominated for visual effects, and that didn't happen. And it's just like, the audience just does not, like, the visual effects branch does not care what the audience thinks. If it's movies that people hate, like The Lone Ranger, which got nominated for Worst Picture at the Razzies, like, it doesn't matter how much the audience wants something to happen. The visual effects branch will generally just do their own thing, and people might be more happy with what Mufasa does. And I think it will get shortlisted because it is a December release, and those tend to do well. You know, again, you look at movies like Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, and you have Cats got on the shortlist as well. And also, you look at And when I say Night of the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, keep in mind, Night of the Museum got in the shortlist over Edge of Tomorrow. Another example of like the visual effects branch doing things that the audience doesn't want to happen. Like, they actually went for Night of the Museum over Edge of Tomorrow, but again, Night of the Museum was a December release. And look at last year's shortlist. Like, 4 out of the 10 films were December releases. Godzilla -1, Poor Things, Society of the Snow, and Rebel Moon Part 1. So, like, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, you want to be in December in order to do that. Also, Better Man. That's why people are going to think Better Man's going to get nominated. Now, what's Better Man? Better Man is a movie about, it's sort of like a biopic of Robbie Williams. And he's playing himself, but he is being played by a CG ape. I don't think so. The reason why I don't think Better Man is happening is because of 2 things. One, a lot of the more psychedelic effects in the film, at least from the trailer, they look like the effects that Elvis had. And which, again, I'm not saying that's bad within the context of the film, but in terms of the grand scheme of visual effects, like, this doesn't really seem like anything that special. But that's something but then people will go, what about the CG monkey and whatnot? Like, wow, that's impressive. I think I even saw Eric Anderson. I think it was Eric. I hope I got his name right. Okay, Eric Anderson. Yep, that's his name. He suggests that Better Man would get nominated over apes. To that I say, no, respectfully. No, absolutely not. Because the CG ape in Better Man, that doesn't even, like, it doesn't even look as good as the ape in, like, the monkey in fucking, what was it called? Umbrella Academy on Netflix. Like that looked better than this. Like, the fact that it just doesn't look as good as even like a Netflix series, I think it'll get shortlisted, sure. Because again, a December release, sure. But I just don't think it's going to get the Oscar nomination. I just don't. Like, it's not over apes, because when you look at the apes in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, like, especially Proximus Caesar, I think it's Proximus Caesar, you know, the one who goes, "What a wonderful day!" Like, that guy looks amazing. That's like one of the best apes that this franchise has gotten yet. But Better Man? No, I don't think Better Man gets nominated, and I definitely don't think it gets nominated above Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Because Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes just looks like is just a more realistic, better looking film in terms of the visual effects themselves. So Better Man, I'm not buying the hype. I think it will get shortlisted because the December release does favor, and the reason why I mentioned December releases is why that would benefit them. Well, because when they're making the shortlists, they're making the shortlists around like November and stuff. So at that point, they haven't seen most of these movies. They haven't seen most of the December releases yet, which is why you'll see some of these big surprises just kind of pop up in the shortlist. Because when you look at the release date, it was December, so they haven't quite seen these movies yet. But when they put them on the shortlist, not only will they be guaranteed to see these movies, but they will also see the visual effects breakdowns at the bake-off, because usually when visual effects breakdowns release online, it is like usually well into the movies, like digital, like when the movie's out on digital and stuff, and like people can buy the movie. That's usually when you see those visual effects breakdowns, long after the movie's been released. And that's also why Everything Everywhere All at Once did not get into the shortlist for visual effects, because by the time the shortlists were being made, well, there had already been many videos made about how they did the effects and everything everywhere all at once. And the visual effects branch went, okay, now we do know when did the visual effects of that film, and it's not really impressing us, so we're not shortlisting that. Whereas it's something like Poor Things, like the movie had not even been released, so it's like they didn't really know what was going on in the film in terms of visual effects. So that's why they were able to shortlist it. And I think that's what's going to happen with Mufasa and Better Man and Kraven the Hunter. People are going, wait, Kraven, are you insane? But again, look at its release date. It's a big superhero movie coming out in December. Now people will try and go, well, what about Aquaman? Like both Aquaman did not get shortlisted. True, but also the visual effects branch just hated the DC extended universe. Like, not a single one got shortlisted except for Birds of Prey, and you already kind of have to put an asterisk on that, because that was like the worst year for visual effects like ever. So with that in mind, oh, someone's being really loud out there. But regardless, Kraven the Hunter, I feel like is not going to be in that kind of a situation. I feel like it can get not nominated, but I think it can get shortlisted, being in being a December release. So that's going to be interesting to think about. Now, what could also get in? Wicked. Wicked is like, I don't know if it's going to get nominated, but however, I do want to keep my eyes open because it is going to be a big tech player. And so, but at the same time, it is coming out in November. And like, I don't know, the movie would have already been out at that point. Like, it's not a December release. So I don't know. Wicked could either get in the shortlist, or it could end up being like Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, and they just don't shortlist it. Like, that could also happen as well. Considering we have a few December releases in the conversation, so we'll have to see. Here, this is one that I did take out of the shortlist, because I don't know. Like, again, that could maybe also get in, because the technology is, like, it is some of the more innovative technology going on, and I know people are going to go, boy, but AI, it's like, okay, like, for one, in terms of, like, the de-aging stuff, it's like, it's really no different than what we're seeing with other forms of de-aging, that the whole AI thing, it's like, that's something we've been seeing for a long time now with de-aging. The one difference is that they're saying it's being done in real time, but even then, I'm not really convinced that's being done entirely in real time. Like, you just look at the faces and it's like, no, there had to have been some post-production work, you know? Like, I think maybe what the machine spit out was like a sort of like a rough draft. I could see, like, yeah, maybe it was like a rough draft, but I just don't think it was like fully like, oh, AI, boop, press a button, and then, you know, everything, like, it just comes out like squeaky clean and perfect what you're seeing on screen. No, I don't buy that. There had to have been some post-production work on it. There had to have been some. So I'm not quite buying that. Again, that might happen, but also people just don't like here. But then at the same time, I don't know. I did also say that Rebel Moon's also a big contender, but it's also like Rebel Moon's also just big visual effects. Whereas here, it mostly is just in the faces, and that's probably the most impressive thing you have going for it, because even the dinosaur stuff doesn't look that great. So we'll have to see. I'm scared about Godzilla vs. Kong, or Godzilla and Kong, the New Empire, because they do love their MonsterVerse movies, and they didn't shortlist Godzilla King of the Monsters, but I don't know. Do I want to go? I don't know. I don't know if I want to go for this, because they didn't even now granted, they did not nominate Godzilla vs. Kong, although the Visual Effects Society Awards did nominate Godzilla vs. Kong, so I don't know. So could it get shortlisted? Maybe. We'll have to see. Alien Romulus, again, a lot of people are going for Alien Romulus. I just don't see it right now, because it's sort of going back to what Alien did, the first Alien did. And granted, this, from what I've seen, it looks to be a little bit bigger than that, but I don't know. Maybe I need to see it and I'll be a little bit more convinced, but I don't know. It doesn't look as like big or grand as like Prometheus or Alien Covenant, which, you know, Prometheus got nominated and Alien Covenant was shortlisted, but it just doesn't look as big as those movies. Beetlejuice, people are going to try to make this one happen, but no, it's trying to be too old school with its visual effects. And old school doesn't really help you in the visual effects race. Like, you know, it didn't help Oppenheimer at all. And even when they praise, like, oh, practical effects, yay, and like the Jurassic World sequels, those ended up not getting nominated. So it's like they don't really care about practical effects. No, I think Beetlejuice, it might even get Critics' Choice nominated, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think Beetlejuice is happening. A Quiet Place Day 1, I think it'll make the top 20, especially since it seems to be the biggest visual effects film of the A Quiet Place films. But if the first two didn't get nominated, why would this one? I don't think so. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, this is a December release, and that does scare me a bit, but I don't know. Maybe I will hold it back from the top 10 as of right now. We'll have to see. Blitz, Megalopolis, Conclave, those are absolutely not happening. I don't care who nominates them, but, you know, I'm just putting them out there, because, because sometimes in the visual effects shortlists, you'll get like Killers of the Flower Moon or The Boys in the Boat or Elvis, like some of these movies that like technically have visual effects and they're in the top 20, but they're not going to get in anyway. I think that will be those bottom three. So yeah, sound. Funny enough, this is 4 out of 5 with film editing, which doesn't really happen. So I'm a little bit scared about this, but again, I'm kind of like, what do I do? Dune Part 2, I have winning. I'd be kind of shocked if anything beat it for sound. Although you do have Emilia Perez, which does have, the musical elements and gunfire sequences, which, is like a sound designer's wet dream. So maybe this wins editing? That would be kind of crazy, though, if it actually won editing. Furiosa, again, it's going to be fine in best sound, guys. It's going to be fine. Like, even the creator got nominated for best sound. Like, let's chill here, all right? And again, people actually like this way more than the creator. But even then, I don't know. I guess you could also argue, well, people liked Killers of the Flower Moon was nominated for best picture, and that didn't even get nominated for best sound. We'll have to see, but basically Furiosa is just a lot of sound. It has a lot of sound, so I think it's going to be fine. A Complete Unknown, I think it's going to be in Best Picture. It has Bob Dylan and singing, and he's working with amps. I think that'll get in. And The Brutalist, especially hearing the trailer, I'm like, ooh, I hear a lot of sound design. I think The Brutalist is going to be that next sound nomination, all right? Maybe I could put that in top 3. No, not top 3. Maybe I could put that in the top, at number 4. Maybe. We'll have to see. And then after that, Gladiator 2, hearing the responses, I'm hearing some people say that it could get nominated for Best Sound. We'll have to see. Blitz, maybe. I've heard some decent things about the sound. The Wild Robot, I think, could get shortlisted. Although I think it would be like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, where that got shortlisted, but it didn't get the nomination. But if it gets nominated for Best Picture, then I will have to predict it for Best Sound, because you kind of every animated feature nominated for every animated film nominated for Best Picture has had a sound nomination somewhere. So I kind of have to assume, like, if Wild Robot gets into Best Picture, it's going to get sound. A Quiet Place Day 1, sure, it'll get shortlisted, but the A Quiet Place movies have been weirdly, how do I describe it? Like, very, ironically enough, very muted in the visual effects race. Like, the first Quiet Place did not even get sound mixing, and it also didn't win sound editing. A Quiet Place Part 2 didn't get nominated, and so A Quiet Place Day 1, I think it'll get, like, shortlisted maybe, but it's the third installment. They're probably not interested in this anymore. And then I have Civil War at number 10. I think maybe this could happen. It is a big film and has a bunch of sound in it. So I think that's definitely possible. Joker Folie à Deux, again, I feel like people just hate that movie too much. The Substance has very good sound design, but that would imply that they're going to go really hard for the movie. I'm not really willing to say that yet. Conclave, I think people are going to try to say this is getting nominated, but I don't think this is happening. Not right now, I think. Nickel Boys, this would have to go off of like a Zone of Interest kind of hype, but I don't think that's going to be strong enough. Twisters, I mean, the sound is very good in Twisters, so maybe, so we'll have to see. Wicked, I don't know. People are saying, oh yeah, it's like a big musical, and it's also Oz, but it's also like, would this be nominated for Best Sound? Like, I don't know. And then obviously Madam Web, because Madam Web clearly has the best sound mixing of the year. Just ask Tahar Rahim. All right. Original score. I still have Emilia Perez at number 1, although The Brutalist does have some, like, big scores, at least from what we're hearing in the trailer. Oh, I forgot to mention that. Okay, this is where we're getting into Dune. Dune Part 2 is just not eligible for Best Sound. No, for Best Original Score. Because apparently it crossed the threshold of 20% of the music being from the first. Like, the Oscars have this new rule where, like, I think it was, I don't know when exactly this rule was implemented, but basically, if a sequel or franchise film has 20% of it crosses the threshold of 20% pre-existing music from previous installments, then it's ineligible. And I guess Dune Part 2 did cross that threshold, so it is not getting nominated for original score. And I know some people are upset over that. I'll accept it. I'll accept it. I do love some of the tracks in the movie, but they know more about music than I ever will. And people are going to try to go, well, what about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? I'm like, well, from what I remember of the score of Indiana Jones, it's like, I don't remember them using the old themes that much. Like, it did have a lot of original score. It just wasn't really memorable, and I didn't like it. I didn't think it was worthy of a nomination. But I think the thing is with Indiana Jones, it's like the music was just not very the original music was just not very memorable. Whereas with Dune Part 2, I do remember the music in that film, but they're also using a lot of pre-existing themes. So, like, again, I'll accept it. I'll live with it. Whatever. But it does shake the race up a bit, because now Dune definitely can't take it from Emilia Perez or The Brutalist. So I still have The Room Next Door in, especially if it's getting into Best Picture. Alberto Iglesias has gotten nominated even when there was not a Best Picture nomination attached to it. Although, I still want to keep it to Best Picture nominees, because unless you're John Williams, the past couple of years, unless you're John Williams, then you kind of just get into Best Original Score if you're in Best Picture. Like, they will literally nominate American Fiction over Spider-Verse. Like, what was that? Why did they do that? That was stupid. Sing Sing, again, this makes sense. Like, if they wanted to go for, again, if Sing Sing is proving to be pretty big, they could nominate that for original score. And I have Conclave in. I put Conclave in. I've actually listened to some of the score from Conclave, and yep, it has some of those repeating themes, although, like, when I mean repeating things, I mean, like, it's sort of like All Quiet on the Western Front, where you would always hear bwom, bwom, bwom. Or like how in Babylon, they always go, like, the recurring themes that you kind of hear in the movies and stuff. Conclave definitely has that. Like, so I think that, like, honestly, yeah, maybe I should put that above Sing Sing at some point. I'll do that later. But yeah, I think maybe it's between this top 5. Seed of the Sacred Fig, admittedly, I don't really remember the score in that movie. And Juror number 2, we don't really know what the score is going to be like for that film. And I have a complete unknown at number 13, because I don't really know how much original score is in that. But honestly, in terms of Best Picture nominees, it's kind of barren. Because, like, what else, unless something surprises in Best Picture, like, let's say The Wild Robot, if The Wild Robot gets into Best Picture, then maybe I will predict it for Best Original Score. Blitz, we'll have to see what they do with that. I mean, maybe the Academy could go, well, I mean, we want to nominate Hans Zimmer for Dune Part 2, and we can't do that, so we'll nominate him for Blitz. Maybe that happens. I want to listen to the score for Blitz. But then again, like, I guess it doesn't really matter if I like it, because, again, American Fiction still got in. Challengers, I think this will be one of those films that gets a few precursors, but I don't think it ultimately gets the nomination, really. Not without Best Picture. Saturday Night, same thing. If it's not in Best Picture, I'm not going to predict it for score. Gladiator 2, I don't know, maybe. We'll have to see. Piano Lesson, Queer, Here, Megalopolis, Nosferatu, Kinds of Kindness, Night Bitch. I really want to look out for, like, because apparently the shortlist is going to be 20 films, and so I'm just kind of spitballing as to what I think could happen. But right now, like, yeah, I feel very good about this top 5 right now. Unless something surprises in Best Picture. Like, I'm mainly looking out for Blitz and The Wild Robot. Because if I end up putting those in Best Picture, then maybe those can slide into Best Original Score. Original Song, we have Mi Camino for Emilia Perez and damn it, what am I doing? Like, oh no, okay, let me change something real quick. There we go, fixed it. Mi Camino, Mino. I'm bad at Spanish. I'm so sorry. God, okay. But yeah, El Mal, Mi Camino. I've not seen the movie, so I can't really say. I'm just kind of going with what's like the consensus right now. I want to know what that song was in the teaser, where it's like Emilia. Like, I want to know what that song is. That song actually sounds really good. So yeah, like, there's basically going to be 2 Emilia Perez songs in. We'll just settle it there. All right. The Journey from the 6888. This is Diane Warren, so she automatically gets in. And then the other 2 might be a little bit more interesting, because like are very interesting to try to figure out, because right now I have Piece by Piece and Like a Bird from Sing Sing. I did listen to Piece by Piece. I don't remember it one bit. I can't. So yeah, and Like a Bird I remember liking when I first saw it. When I heard it in the end of the movie, it worked pretty well. But honestly, like, there's a lot of other contenders, like Harper and Will Go West from Will and Harper. I remember liking that quite a bit. Like, it was a cute song. Kiss the Sky from the Wild Robot. I'm not gonna lie, I don't even think that's like the best song from the movie. I think the best song in the movie was Even When I'm Not, which I have at number 13. That deserves a nomination over Kiss the Sky, but I think Kiss the Sky has just gotten more attention. Why I'm Here, I've listened to that song. It's from Shirley, the movie that I think Regina King's in, and it is basically every civil rights song you've heard. There's always a civil rights song in contention. They don't always get nominated. Just look at Road to Freedom from Rustin. But you gotta have a civil rights song in there. So yeah. Ain't No Love in Oklahoma. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even like a country guy, and I actually, but Ain't No Love from Oklahoma from Twisters is actually, I actually really like that song. Ain't no love in Oklahoma. I can't even sing it right, but God, I need a drink. But I do really like that song, and it might even get like Golden Globe or maybe Critics' Choice. But I don't know. I don't think the Oscars are gonna be that cool. I don't think they're gonna nominate that song. I Always Wanted a Brother from Mufasa. Oh, I hope there's a better song in that movie than this. I mean, granted, we've only heard a snippet of it in the trailer, and it's Lin-Manuel Miranda doing the songs for this movie, but oh wow, that song sounds really, really bad. I always wanted a brother. I always wanted a brother. It's like, oh, it sounds so lame. Oh God, no! Like, what do they do to Lin-Manuel Miranda? And yet he's not doing Moana 2. Like, that's weird. We're back from Moana 2. I know a lot of people are going for that, but it's like, I don't know. I'm not buying the songwriters here. I know they want a Grammy. Okay, I know they want a Grammy, but Instagram and TikTok though. And yet they're going straight into Moana 2. I don't, like, call me crazy, I'm not convinced of this. I'm not convinced of the songwriters here. Because we saw what happened when social media stars alone got, you know, maybe not social media stars, I shouldn't be, like, but like with Wish, they had like this pop song writer or doing the songs for that movie, and the songs were pretty terrible. The things I get, do. It's like, I think Disney might be in trouble this year. I'm not gonna lie, their songs are pretty bad, or at least they sound pretty bad. So that's, yeah, I don't know. But we'll have to see how Moana 2 turns out, but I don't know, something about this movie just feels off to me. I don't know, something feels off about this. Compress, Repress from Challengers. Again, I don't know. Like, I heard that song when watching the movie. It's not memorable at all, but it might get a precursor, but I'm not convinced of the Best Picture prospects. Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late. Funny enough, he actually did a song for the Lion King remake a few years ago called Never Too Late, and it was a bad song. I did really like the movie, but that song was not it. Like, the Beyonce song cleared this one. But this is not the same song. It's just another song called Never Too Late, which is weird. Double Life from Despicable Me 4. I think the Oscars are going to get their Pharrell Williams fix with Piece by Piece. Forbidden Land from Better Land. I don't know. I've heard about that. I have not listened to Folie à Deux yet from Joker Folie à Deux, but I don't know. The movie everyone hates it, but we'll have to see. Animated feature. Still same top 5. Wild Robot I have at number 1. I want to see if this gets into Best Picture. It probably won't, but still, it's clearly the frontrunner right now. And this will probably make the 3rd year in which Disney loses the Best Animated Feature Oscar. And next year, considering they have Elio and Zootopia 2, I don't think they're going to win again. I think they might actually lose next year to, I think Wildwood's coming out. Oh, watch out for Wildwood. But this year, I think The Wild Robot's going to end up beating Inside Out 2. But Inside Out 2 does have the box office, and people were generally surprised as to how good it was. Like, oh yeah, it's actually very good. But I think The Wild Robot has taken more people by surprise. Like, or like, it really, like, it really captured the heartstrings. Like, I know there are some people saying, oh, it's too sappy, but it's like, the people that love The Wild Robot think it's like one of the best things ever. Like, watch out. Flow, I did see Flow. Flow might be my favorite animated film of the year so far. Like, it's a silent animated film, and it's sort of like done in really long takes, really like gorgeous one takes, and like, it's a very sweet story. I really liked it. It's one of the best movies of the year in my opinion. Memoir, I think it's going to get nominated, and it might even win the Indie Animated Feature Oscar. Memoir of a Snail. I think, generally, hearing the buzz, I think that's probably getting nominated. And then Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. Yeah, I think, as long as people like this movie more than they did Chicken Run, I think this will get nominated. Although, I will say, it seems like this seems to be the consensus top 5, and this early in the year, for a consensus top 5 for Best Animated Feature. I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. Like, what's going on? Because, like, Moana 2, unless that surprises, like, wow, this is fantastic. I don't know if that gets nominated. Lord of the Rings: The War of Rohirrim. I mean, the movie looks very good, but now that I'm, like, I don't know, I've heard some people, like, I don't know. Is it going to be one of the most acclaimed animated films of the year? I don't know. The Imaginary, The Most Precious of Cargoes, Chicken for Linda. Oh, wait, I forgot. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. That's not coming out till next year. Oops. I need to take that out. Orion in the Dark, Despicable Me 4, Kung Fu Panda 4. I know people are going to say Transformers 1, Transformers 1. But again, if Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles couldn't get nominated, why would Transformers 1 get in? I mean, it's not fair, but, you know. And then Piece by Piece, the Oscars are allergic to Lego movies. I'm just kind of putting it in there to be funny to talk about this, but they're allergic. But again, they are allergic to animated movie, like to Lego movies. They absolutely not. They will not do this. And then the final category we're going to be talking about today is Best International Feature. All right. Emilia Perez, I have that squarely in Best... If it's a top 5 in Best Picture, it's going to get nominated. No, it's going to win, I should say. The Seed of the Sacred Fig, I think that's also in Best Picture. But even if it weren't, I would still say it gets International Feature. I'm still here. That's kind of a wild card, like what's going on with this movie. I don't think right now it gets Best Picture, but I think that's obviously in. Kneecap, this is also a, like, consensus top 4. Honestly, the top 4 here is probably the consensus right now. I'm going with The Girl with the Needle right now at number 5, because I do want to pair that up with the cinematography nomination, which it doesn't need International Feature to have cinematography, but that would help. I mean, look at Never Look Away. Never Look Away had that. And I think Ida also had that. So we'll have to see. Grand Tour, Flow. I would love to see Flow get in there. Flow is very good. And then some others that I've just kind of been noticing were popping up, like Universal Language, Sujo, Vermiglio. I hope I pronounced that right. Santosh, Meeting with Pol Pot, In Her Place. Admittedly, I kind of only really know about the top 7 right here, so I'm just kind of like figuring it out as we go along. But right now, I'll go with The Girl with the Needle at number 5. So yeah. And guys, those are my below the line Oscar predictions for October. And this closes out Oscar predictions for October. Next week is going to be Best Picture. All right, because we're going into November, and we've already, and by that point, we will see the reactions to Juror number 2, which I think actually we're going to be finding out the reactions tonight, but next week we will definitely know. We'll also see probably some more trailers and stuff, and see what's kind of the buzz going around and all that. So yeah, but now I'm going to pass the question off to you. What are your below the line Oscar predictions for October? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, consider becoming a member, because we have 3 members already. I'm pumping out some members exclusive videos. I'm soon going to be asking for your requests as to what I should review. And also, once we get to 8 memberships, we will have even more emojis available, and currently I need to update this, because we actually have a skibbity toilet emoji that I designed right here. That's a lot of fun. Consider becoming a member. It really means a lot. And be sure you hit that subscribe button, because if you don't, this toilet will not be skibbity.